Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about the importance of a well-defined organization chart. Now, I know that for a lot of entrepreneurs or even some established companies, there's been this thing of the last few years about org charts should be flat. I don't buy into it. I don't see that work very well, hardly ever. So I am a huge believer in a well-defined org chart, and I'm going to talk to you why. The importance of the org chart is it provides clarity and communication to the team members about who does what and where am I supposed to go for certain communications, who is doing what, who's accountability, who's responsible for what areas of the business. The org chart helps define that. The other thing I want to say about org charts is a lot of companies will or entrepreneurs will say, okay, I'm going to make myself an org chart. And then it becomes this static thing that just is there. So understand that org charts are fluid. They evolve. They may evolve daily. They may evolve weekly. They may evolve yearly, but they are living, breathing things that are based on the talent, the competence level, and the confidence level that you have inside the organization dictates what the org chart is going to look like. So the importance of that is clearly defined roles for each of your team members. In a previous podcast, we talked a little bit about job responsibilities. Whenever you put this org chart together with said title, the job responsibility needs to be right there as well for everyone to see, right? Because the more clarity of mission you can provide to your lowest common denominator in the company, the smoother things are going to go. That's what a well-defined org chart should help us do. Now, once that org chart is set and we have inside the org chart the job responsibilities, how are we going to measure performance? If we can define KPIs or measuring sticks within that org chart, even better. Because as the leader, you want to constantly be setting up ways to celebrate with your team and to catch them doing things right. And the way you do that is by saying, here's how I'm going to grade you. Here's what you're being held accountable for. And when those folks are able to accomplish those things and you're able to high-five them, that empowers even more performance. The job of the CEO or founder as it relates to the org chart, once that is set and that work is done, is to start vision casting nonstop. What I want you to understand as a leader as it relates to the org chart is every time you open your mouth, those words are landing somewhere, right? So you want to choose your words very carefully. That doesn't mean guarded. It means productive communications. Every time you open your mouth, it's landing on one of your team members or vendors or clients some kind of way, and those words stick. Oftentimes in smaller businesses or in businesses where the CEO is maybe even subconsciously a people pleaser, they'll get too casual with communication. And all of a sudden that starts getting wanky because you think about a hierarchy on an org chart. You have executive team or just come up with any title, COO, and then down the org chart might be, I don't know, let's say bus driver, okay? Both roles are super important, but in the hierarchy of the organization, one is higher than the other. So when you start normalizing conversations and getting loose with communication, this happens a ton in smaller companies, it accidentally confuses the team members up and down the org chart. Because one second you're buddy, and the next second you go into boss mode or subordinate mode. Very tricky to do that. So it does not mean that you can't be friends with people that you work with, but you do need to respect the hierarchy and the power of the position. And if you're up on the org chart, choosing your words carefully becomes your responsibility, right? Because now you should be sharing vision, sharing what good performance looks like. How do I get promoted here? How do I grow up the org chart? That's the basis of most of your conversations. If you happen to dive into friendship, which is okay, being a friend at work is a benefit, it is not a requirement, and you're the leader, be okay saying, hey, Henry, we're going to have a work conversation right now. Or, hey, Henry, we are buddies right now. We can talk about anything. Define the roles, right? Define the roles in the moment. And that is totally okay to do that. It takes pressure off the relationship. It allows you not to mince words, and it allows you to have clarity around certain topics, right? Otherwise, relationships get super mushy. And if you get too friendly too fast, it's very hard to all of a sudden become a boss again. Very, very difficult to do that. So as the CEO or leader, you are a vision caster, providing clarity all throughout the org chart, choosing your words carefully nonstop. The next thing for a well-done org chart is the leadership team and therefore the entire organization needs to have a common bond leadership structure. Right. And so what do I mean by that? There are all kind of books out there on how to lead teams. I happen to be a Ken Blanchard disciple. And for me, that means SL2, formerly known as situational leadership. It's just a very easy model that folks can, I like to think of it this way. In any leadership team, we want independent thought because wisdom is in the group, right? And so we need folks thinking differently. However, we need folks tethered to a certain common value system, whether that's a value system, a leadership system. I like to use the analogy of when you go bowling, it's very easy to put the ball into the gutter unless you put those little guardrails up that you see a lot with kids or parties or whatever, where they put the guardrails up so the bowling ball can't hit the gutter. That's the way I like to think of a common leadership thought process, where you have some independence of thought, but there's guardrails up to where all of a sudden you're not going to go so far off the reservation that you lose the team or take the company off track. So independent thought, yes, but some leadership structure around that to have a common thought line of how we approach topics, how we solve problems, how we have communication. Again, for me, that's SL2, situational leadership, Ken Blanchard model. There are others out there. Ken's is the best. I layer that with our other tools, the DISC profile and the EQ assessments. So in conclusion around the org charts, don't be afraid of them. Don't think that your company is too small to have one, because they're needed, because your job as a leader is to provide clarity to the team members. As the organization grows, that's going to get harder and harder for you to do because there's more people in the group. Your atom only splits so many ways. You can't talk to everybody nonstop. Org charts help define clarity. And remember, as the CEO or founder, you want to get in the habit as early as possible for being accountable for everything, but responsible for very little. A well-defined org chart helps transfer those duties at a much more robust and clarified manner. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.